actually dialoguing with each other.
Meritocracy of older people. You can see there's different elder councils from different tribal groups that are essentially running things. And
welcome to South Sudan today. My name is Miyong, and we are back on our regular show on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Of course, it's 9:12, and we were just switching from the earliest show that I had played some certain videos, including news from South Sudan, and we want to have our show clear so that when people click on it, they will just get it right away. Again, our discussion would involve, of course, the diaspora where we are, South Sudan, and everything else, including the education. Our discussion tonight will center on the diaspora intellectuals and how they should change South Sudan through policies. But we do have invite our panelists, and Dr. Fudge, who always been with us all the time, is in the room, and I will invite him as soon as the times allowed. But for now, I want to let you, our viewers, know that you are invited for this discussion, but you have to let us know of your interest when you are ready, so that we will discuss this. We will actually exhaust this discussion for only 1 hour. We are not going to go more than that tonight, because we have spent part of the time earlier on showing you the news in South Sudan. But for now, I want to bring in Dr. Thaj for the first time in 2 weeks. Dr. Thaj, welcome to the show.
Oh, nice to be here, Ambassador Miyong. How are you?
I'm good. It has been a while, and we miss you. How is Tennessee?
It has been a while for sure. There's a lot going on in Tennessee. The beginning of the semester, students are back to school. It's also a federal ending fiscal, where we do a lot in closing our books for the next fiscal. And it's also a time when there's a lot going on in the world. Children are also preparing to get back to school, not only in here, but also in Africa. And of course, it's also a crisis period with what is going on in terms of the flooding in the Gambela region of Ethiopia, and also in other part of South Sudan. In Tennessee, we are fine. We don't have all the drama and parties and that you guys have in good life. So what is good life?
Of course, there's a good light, and you can only understand if you are in good light. Yes, here in Nebraska, the school has started, as you said. It's been a hectic time because children are changing school. Leaving the regular school to new schools, from elementary to from high school to college. It has not been the best time at all. But good thing that the weather has been very nice, even though the rain has really devastated this place where we are in. Of course, like you said, the rain is all over the world. We have seen the news from Gambela all the way to northern Bargazal. This is something that is unbelievable. But now let's jump into our discussion. We are going to talk about the intellectuals who are in diaspora and, of course, also back in our country, Dr. Thaj. But before we get there, you were not there last week and a week before when the long-awaited security arrangement, part of security arrangement in South Sudan, were achieved, and people have received that with different or mixed feelings. But I just want to see if there's anything that you want to add or throw in on that part as we discuss it without you being there at that time. After that, we will jump into our discussion. I have a message from Professor PLO, and he gave a very, very good information. We want to talk about that message he says as well. So go ahead if there's anything that you can add on the secure arrangement in South Sudan.
You know, I heard it. I heard it. I saw it. I didn't really pay much attention of it. I didn't really follow it so much. I think it has to do with the how tightness we are with this political replacement and the prioritization of things in South Sudan. It would have meant a lot if that was intentionally made to not only which are watching the internationals presence and the opinion on things. It would meant to really bring about peace in South Sudan. Anything that brings peace in South Sudan, we all want to see it happen. But less over 20,000 unifying, graduating with stick, and not promised to be deployed, and not there's a lot into it. But I don't always want to fill people with so much negativities on things, because any small thing can be celebrated in a situation where a lot of things is already happening and people could feel comfortable seeing anything that can show a sign. I didn't say much. You see on my timeline, I didn't comment. I didn't want to
Well,
join that because there's a lot into it.
That is
That's
true.
why I didn't want to say anything.
I personally follow it from the beginning until the end. I watch it live because now I have the access of South Sudan Broadcast Corporation. That's the reason why I was playing all those news. I started 8 in the morning in Juba, which was 2 a.m. here until 7 a.m. here our time. It a monumental shift from what happened before to now. But anything that happened in South Sudan is being made with caution. So I do not blame anybody who is so excited. And then I do not blame anybody who is so careful. Because like you say, we all wish for peace in South Sudan. And I hope that this time, this is the path to peace in South Sudan. But let's get to our topic, Dr. Faj. Our topic here is all about the education. And we have exhausted it before, but what I like of this time is to add mix into it this time, because what we are going to discuss here has something to do with what is happening in South Sudan. And I like how Professor PLO put it to practice. Before we get to it, I want to play it first so that
listening to many
you can
years from today,
hear
the only thing
from his word, then we can discuss it just for a second. That's why I like to play it first.
hidden in
So
some
let
village,
us-
doing next to nothing, which is not good for you and for anybody. We are therefore encouraging you to use the occasion that you have to ensure that you prepare yourself for tomorrow. The professors who are here will tell you, and I'll name them by name. Professor Angala was sitting comfortably in his rural home and sometimes in Mombasa. Then because he went to school, the President of the Republic of Kenya and other institutions saw the wisdom of choosing a wise man, and behold, he is the chair of Koitalel. If he was a beach boy in Mombasa, he would be walking half naked, being useful to nobody except himself. But today we are celebrating him because of education. Professor Mayo, who is sitting here at Baraton University, the reason why he was selected is because there is something in his mind. The directors of education that you listen to here, they are men and women that we are celebrating because there is something between their ears. And when there is something between your ears, you don't have to tell us. You open your mouth and we know that there is something useful between your ears. Today, therefore, we come here not to make many lengthy speeches. We come here to remind ourselves and to remind the young men and women that there is a future, that the world is looking for new young men.
Exactly as you say, Dr. Tharj. The part that I like and the part that we really need to discuss, like I tell you, that is very similar to what is happening in our country, is the intellectual, the educators, the scholars, who are not all in the country. Many of them are here in the United States, including yourself, Dr. Tharj, are the reference to what Professor was saying. If you have the education, it does not matter where you are, whether you're in a village, as you said, or you're in another country. The mind that you have, it will be them that they will look for you. But the question here that I want you to answer is, the intellectuals that are here now in this country, who have the technical know-how on anything that can be done, are spending their time fighting instead of changing the country through policy. Why?
Well, this is, there's a lot of issues that would bring all these fights. But before I talk about it, let me comment on specifically on what I think Pio was trying to also communicate, and how I feel about when it comes to the significance of education. Two occasions in humanity that make human very proud are when a professor see his or her product produce and double produce the outcome they wanted to see happen. That aspects, it not only just encouraging them to do more, it places a huge joy in them significantly. The others are those who enable the humble young person to go through the process of education. And now the young person turned out to be a significant contributor to the world. If that person happened to be a parent, happened to be a mentor in the community, happened to be a sponsor, even if you are not getting the person does not get a direct outcome of the products that he or she places to the world and change the world, the joys never go away. Those are joy like the joys of the parents when they see their child now becoming a successful human being and contributor to society. So when you're talking about fight, people fight for a number of issues, a number of reasons. Some of them can be bring down to the local aspects, local politics or societal politics. Some of them can be also on the bigger picture, but cannot be handled as well in the right way. So it is hard to pinpoint exactly why I chose this when you seem to be the guidance, when you seem to be the person who has all it takes to provide the direction to the undirected society. The Western Africans and Western Sudanese, for example, who have come here and earned the education, uh, the aspects would be that they can not only just think of themselves here, but their family back home, their community back home, their country back home. But how in the world could you also be able to do that when in fact there are opportunities that you are not exploring? And should there be a way for you to explore those opportunities? Maybe some of those issues too had to do with how do I go about exploring some opportunities with the capacity that I have. Because technical education is a skill that people learn. And that is skill, if you succeed in it, in your area of the skill, you can employ it, you can put it to work, you can be successful in it. But if for any reason that you are not lucky enough to do well in your area, you look for other options. And other options sometimes might be need to be technical, but you might not have the technical know-how to see that happen. So all in all, like I said earlier, there are always a lot of connotation as to why this aspects becoming the discussion issues when there is a priorities that have to be taken. And where do you go about prioritizing what is needed to be discussed? Now, if you talk about South Sudanese, for that matter, we are now affected by the current situation in South Sudan, where we don't have all other options. We don't talk development. We don't talk new ideas. How to make things happen in our own areas like expectancy.
Well, who doesn't talk? Who doesn't talk development?
Well, I would say majority. If you find 20 South Sudanese sitting under a tukul, and under the place, well, we don't have tukul here, but in the sitting areas, 90% of the discussion will always be about politics in South Sudan. 90% of whatever they discuss. And it doesn't matter whether they are politically informed or not. They talk about politics in South Sudan because everyone now, the politics in South Sudan is not a political choice, a political career. It is something that people had some to do with it because of the suffering of our people. You're talking about the people who are dying. You're talking about people who are not getting what they think they should get. People who are not having opportunities to exercise their rights. They advocate for their rights, who are not free and everything. So you think, yes, people can talk about development. You talk about other new ideas. Maybe there has to be a discussion of other sectors because political sector is not only the sector that people should be focused on in the society. There are a lot of other areas that people should speak, but other areas are also shrinks and also made very thin to be seen because we are also affected by what is going on because there's no political room that allow people to actually do other things. And that might be also the issues that people in the diaspora, intellectual or what have you, might not be able to discuss anything else. And when you discuss politics, there's sometimes there's this room for political opinion, for political discussion, without people getting into issues.
What I'm focusing on now, especially on this platform where you are and the rest, the topic here, which I will put up, I actually suppose I put it up already. The topic here, which I put up here, is about intellectual. Let get the demographics separate now. I'm talking about intellectual, and not just only intellectuals. I'm talking about the elite scholars, people who have higher education, who have studies, particular skills in which if something happened, like as we speak, instead of lamenting on why it went wrong, instead of talking about how many are being affected. Why are not people, including yourself, come out and help in a way that this is how we should do it, even though the blood is running, even though it's bleeding? People with technical know-how, people who are teaching people in school like you, people who are teaching the skill of leadership, the skill of speaking, the skill of other skills. Why South Sudanese intellectuals are not coming out and introduce policy in which the rest of the world can read?
I think there are few people who have tried it, and I'm not, and I will tell you that it's not that there is no people who actually try things. There are people who have tried to look at how you can address current crisis and what would be the remedies, what could be done to address some of those issues politically. And there have also been issues too to be addressed at the diaspora level in terms of what intellectual can also do in collaborating their ideas to talk on what they think they can actually do together. I'd say earlier, South Sudan is a new nation, but it's a new nation that is not speedy to grow. It's just like trying to have a child who you think is no longer a child, but it still does the children thing. It is exactly what is happening in South Sudan.
Acting and a big person acting childish, huh?
Yeah, a child is a child, and sometimes an adult is an adult. It's not always about age. It's about how they're ready to be an adult, or even when you are an adult and you act like a child, people will surprise. We're like, this is a huge man or a huge woman, but while he or she is still acting like a little baby. That's exactly the situation we have here in South Sudan. Intellectuals who are here, they are highly intellectual. They are contributed here in the Western world like anybody else that is contributing to the Western world. And we have earned, there's a lot of people who have earned the respect of the other communities who are called to, you're teaching leader, you're teaching society, you are also producing document, and then you are also speaking and engaging in the other communities, doing everything anybody else does. But why in your community you are not being taken serious? That's many issues, because even within the aspect of this guy, it is the Kenyan who actually accept him to have his ideas be heard, and it's because the system in Kenya allowed that to happen. System in South Sudan that could allow the South Sudanese diaspora and intellectual to have a say. It's not ready to actually allow the South Sudanese in diaspora to actually contribute it in a profound way of intellectual reasoning. So that's why you see now people end up to, instead of figure out a way to do things so civically, they'll end up using violence because there's no other option. Yes, here there are people who try things at the local level and their own level, their own community level, that it might not be taken serious by their community. And even if they are a medical doctor like Dr. George Imru, if you are sick and you're not going to the Dr. George, if Dr. George wanted to talk to you, try to give you medication, if you don't want to take a medication, he wouldn't put the medication in your mouth or inject you with it. You got to accept that. So intellectuals or what have you here.
Dr. Limuru has proved to people, even those who are not patient, that he can save lives.
He can save lives because people, myself, I was, when I had, it was sick with COVID, I turned to him. I took his advice. I took his help. We also had other people who also went to him. But now what I'm saying is, he's one of those intellectuals. There was people who were also sick in our community who could have also reached out to him or to Dr. Gadbel or to any other person, but chose not to. Now, when you're talking about somebody helping somebody, you got to have a society, you got to have a community, you got to have a system that allows such to happen. Even if you have what it takes, you cannot expose yourself to people who think they know everything, even though you see how they do things. It's not really, uh, really, I would say, it's not in the level that it actually would make you feel like they are also up to the task. But again, it all goes to South Sudan. It all goes to the system in South Sudan because that's what we all know, and that's what we all talk about.
All right,
That's exactly what it
let's
comes.
let's stop right there. Now I'm focusing on. I like the example of Dr. George Limber, right? Dr. George has demonstrated to people that he not only that a doctor, but he can save life. Dr. Gadbel has demonstrated he is doing it already. But for the rest of the intellectuals, which I'm talking about, is not only that you have the certificate of that milestone that you have achieved, but you can also show to the people that, hey, we have someone here. Like he said, he's talking about those who have been involved to the government were just simple people teaching at some local school, but knowing what they have. That's why the president of Kenya went all the way to pick them up. What I'm saying here is the government that is preventing people to be heard now is listening now. What I'm saying here is, why not the intellectual, including you, including George Limur, including a lot of South Sudanese in diaspora, not producing something in which people will see them, in which the government will say, "Oh, wait a minute, I think we are struggling on trying to make our city light work when we have some engineers that can do it easily in America." And this platform is there for it. And that's why I would like to bring you in here. My point here is you are not going to wait for the government to call Dr. Thaj and say, hey, Dr. Thaj, help us here. They will first see you. And that's why I will bring you here. And I'm sure they have seen you. I'm not talking about you because you already shown yourself to the people. But where are the rest?
No, I can talk on behalf of each one of these people, and I will tell you how extraordinarily they have been contributed. I will also tell you, I think in the late 90s, they came up with a study that compare the effort, the contribution of the African diaspora and intellectual who have come to the West and are educated in the West and chose not to go back to their home. And then they were talking about why are they not going back to their home? At that time, the number of the South Sudanese in the West, or the Sudanese in that matter, who were in the West, they were less. Even though we have come at the time, we have not had what we have now. But they were talking about other Africans, majority of whom will be coming from West Africa, Nigerian be on the top. And then if you come to East Africa, you will see Ethiopian were also on the top. Most of whom were doctors and engineer and what have you. But situation back home prevented them to contribute back home to their country. It prevented them, and that's what they were saying, the brain drainer. Because now the brain's ideas, the engineering, some of whom, one of whom was a professor, actually a mathematician who taught me at one of the university here, who actually was a teacher of this lady, one of the richest African American lady here. So who had Oprah, former teacher. Yeah, Oprah Winfield, so former teacher, actually taught me, was from Nigeria. He had not gone back to Nigeria until he retired. And it was really extraordinary scientist. So why have they not gone back? Is that any different now between those other African plus from South Sudanese? It's not. Why? It's because the situation in some African country has improved. Nigeria, for example, the situation has improved. Ghana is also a situation has improved. You talk about the Rwanda and et cetera, even South Africa. But other African country, and even Ethiopia, if there has not been a crisis that just happened The newest prime minister came back here and took a lot of Ethiopian diaspora back to Africa. Now they are investing. If you went back to Ethiopia after 2020, you might have seen a lot of extraordinary development in Ethiopia. Those were African Ethiopian who came here to this country. There are a number of others like that, but there has to be something that make people because everyone is not going to be politician.
So are you saying that there has to be something that attracts?
So what attracts people has to do with what is going on in the environment. What do you hear? What do you hear in the community? What do you hear in the society? That will attract you, and what makes you happy, what makes you feel good, that now you can do something, you can invest into that society. Because again, it is all about people. If the people that you wanted to serve are not being treated with respect or value, and even if you had anything to give them, it's not going to get to them, then it will give you second thought. But if you're also going to be target for speaking your mind, like we are talking now, if you will be target for telling what you think is right, because a human who does not take other people's opinion and what they think and charging them with a death because of them saying that human is not really ready to be in the 21st century.
Are you saying that the reasons the intellectuals, because we're talking about South Sudanese now, right?
Right.
So you're saying that the reason the intellectuals are not coming out of their shelves is because of what is happening with our government in South Sudan?
I would say
fear of fear of being sidelined or being
I would say two things.
Mm-hmm.
I think anyone now who is not in South Sudan, including yourself, my brother, is not happy with what is going on in South Sudan. Otherwise, you would be in South Sudan.
Okay, yeah. Now,
that's one thing.
Let's leave South Sudan for a second, right?
Yeah.
Because we have South Sudanese here in America.
Right.
We have South Sudanese in Australia. We have these intellectuals here in America. We have them in Australia. I give you one example in just this weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the I have seen there were Nuer community inauguration this weekend, and the same weekend there were Equatorian community meeting as well, right? I believe these are the South Sudanese. Forget about what happened in South Sudan. Where are the intellectual conferences where they can come, or even not just intellectual conferences, where these communities coming to meet? Why don't they come and show themselves and talk to people that what we need is X and Y? So where there's a gathering, that's where these people will be heard. The reason we are talking live now, we have about more than 40 people watching us, right? They will go to something of what we are talking about. But what if these intellectuals, not only you alone, but if a number of these intellectuals come together, they decided to go wherever the South Sudanese have a gathering and change, because that's the nature of our talking tonight is about changing policies. And changing policies is to convince people that will actually follow those policies. Why you guys are not doing that? Or we, myself.
I will not talk in general term, because everyone has their own ways of looking at things. But what I know that I would stand on is that anyone in outside South Sudan now, it might be because of what he or she is seeing in South Sudan that does not get him into becoming part of that. But what would prevent them from doing things here collectively? Well, I would tell you, community organizations or social-based organizations are churches that people make to volunteer in. And in those churches that you make to volunteer in, you can choose to see how you can volunteer your time. You can volunteer your time where you think your ideas will also have place, and they can also be respected. Sometimes we end up doing things that it's good you can be becoming a part of that society. You can start be with them, but anything that has to have a product, it has to have objective. And there has to be some goal, a clear goal on what do you exactly want to achieve in what you're trying to do. Sometimes when things are not in that order, all of these intellectuals, they have communities that they're part of it. If you are now in a health department, you have a lot of health communities, all health organizations with a diverse group of people all over the world. If you are a professor, you are a social scientist, you have an extraordinary number of people. You meet with a different group, you are in different organizations, and et cetera, et cetera. So those things pull out their personal value because they do have also balance of time where they can, some of them are family. And you could balance the time, the civic engagement, the work engagement, and also the family time. If all of this are becoming overwhelming to your thing, then you think, okay, if I had to take out something else, what is this important of that one? What is the end game onto it? What goal do we want to achieve? Because again, I'll tell you, we always talk about goal.
Mhm.
People like myself would want to go to see something that actually have a tangible goal, an outcome that will change other people's life. Otherwise, why would I
Stop,
want
stop right there.
to invest my time on it?
Let's focus on that tangible thing you mentioned. You say you want to go and see a tangible outcome.
Right.
Can you
Elaborate that.
elaborate on that?
Yeah. So let's say, for example, you wanted to organize a intellectual organization, intellectual advocacy group with a diverse group of people. There has to be an objective. Okay, remember, you cannot go to anywhere you don't know where it is. You have to know where do you want to go. Okay, what do you want to achieve? And that one is extraordinary because again, I personally cannot involve myself to any institution that I don't know what it is going to achieve, what it is going to be for. Okay, then if I know what it is make more sense for me to becoming a part of that. Then I can encourage my brother Miyong, and brother to Miyong, say, hey, this thing I think is important for us because one, two, three are the goal, and now these are the strategy. You remember, goal and objective are what you want to achieve. The strategy is how are you going to get there. So these are the strategies that we need to do for us to be able
But
to
where do goals come from before we get to objectives? Where do goals come from, and who produced the goals?
so that well, it's just like trying to get me into you're trying to get me into organizing a group, and that's not what I wanted to do because a goal come when people decided to do something, and it would be a group of people who wanted to do something, and they will ask themselves what do they want to do, and then they will have a goal 1, goal 2, and goal 3. How are they going to get there? Well, this is a strategy 1, a strategy 2. What is the technical aspect of this? What is the tactic that we're going to do to apply that? So that's how you're actually going to form something that makes sense. But if you talk about organizing a huge group of people, for example, you have a goal to have a show, and your goal for this show is to carry a message, of educational message, to the audience, to the broader audience. And you wanted to do it in a language that has to be heard not only by Sudanese, even though it is a South Sudanese thing, but anyone else can get into this now and will not even have a problem hearing us if you speak English. So that's your goal. You want to have a message that's going to go out, and it has to be an educational message. That's your goal. Now, maybe somebody doesn't want that goal. Maybe the other goal a person wants, for example, is wanting to see the South Sudan be organized to the level where it would make sense to call it a country where its own people do not sit behind the tent. They're part of it. They don't fear their own people. They're part of that. But how are you going to see that happen? What do you need to do? You could go advocate to whom? Advocacy, for example, it is done to elected officials, appointing officials who will propose law to change the situation. If those people proposing law that will change the situation, if they can do it in the timing that you think you will have it, then it would be good for you to organize an advocacy institution that will do that. But how do you do it for South Sudanese? What group can you go and advocate to the same person who knows the problem but doesn't want to do it? And if you wanted to do it for the outside world, for example, let's say American or any other group, what law would they write to change any situation in South Sudan? No. And the situation in South Sudan would be changed only by South Sudanese. So how are they going to go
In
about
which you are one of them.
Well, I'm one of them. But again, it will also take unprecedented decision, unprecedented action that would need to be taken. Because if you look at all options, maybe the option to see this thing happen are very few, and maybe they are to the level where they cannot be discussed on a national forum.
All right.
So,
Now, let me give you a tangible example. In northern Balgazal, people are drowning because of the flooding.
yeah,
In Upper Nile, people are drowning because of flooding. In Western Ethiopia, the same thing happening, just at a different location. Shouldn't this be okay if intellectuals outside the country, wherever they may be, can they devise something? Forget about the law, what is happening, but when it's come to helping people, you go to someone that has a technical know-how. Technical know-how is not only that you know how to do computers, not only that you know how to do math or you can write a good article, but thinking itself of how to solve a problem is also part of technical know-how. Those who have these high-profile organizations in which they have achieved things with, why aren't they coming together and put their hand together and show the unity that is lacking in South Sudan, in Ethiopia, in Kenya, and show the unity here so that those we blame will turn around and say, oh, you know what? We actually have a source of help that we are actually preventing outside to come. So my point here is, why don't we show what we have to change mind? Why don't we write policies in which you don't have to go to South Sudan to get this policy, but you can write an article about what went wrong with the parliament, what went wrong with these Upper Nile people getting drowned every year in, year out. Why don't you come up with something? Because the fact that you are a professor in a university, it will go viral on main media. Why not?
well, let me take the floodings as the
Example.
tangible issues, technical issues. And I'm glad you bring it up because this is exactly the forum you could talk about plan like this. And it does not take intellectual to actually come up with an initiative.
Well, that is true. I agree with you.
It takes people with a heart and humanitarian concern, and they can actually call to action. Because what we are seeing now, we're seeing children drowning. We're seeing the likelihood of the communities is vanishing. The cows are dying, the goat and everything else that people are having. Disabled people are not able to walk. They cannot walk in the water for long. We were talking earlier about children that were set on a small sort of a bed that under it has a lot of water, but they had to be set on the top. But if they had to come down, it was the water. The mosquito aspect, the diseases that come as a result of the waterborne. All of these things are extraordinarily challenging. They're big issues, and it needs a collective response. Some of us may have done something underground that are not public, but I think it is important for the community organization. For example, you talked about no community earlier. This is a job for no community. This is a job for other local community organizations. It's not an intellectual job. Intellectuals are part of that community. They are ideas people, but the community role is to respond to needs like this. So urgent response to the community affected areas in Ethiopia, in South Sudan, it is a work that could be done by the community. And if we don't do it, we're failing our people. Because whether the government is doing its part, the government will not have enough resources, or leave alone the old government. I mean, for example, what is it the government of South Sudan will do to people were flooding all over the South Sudan. If they haven't done anything before with anything else that is happening, why would you expect them to do anything that is significant this time? No. And then even the government of Ethiopia for the Nuer in the region and Anyuak in the region who are now suffering, they will not be helped significantly because there's not going to be enough. Ethiopia is also going under their own internal issues. So they don't have resources enough to do that. But the people who have people in the region should contribute. And if they are not doing this now, if somebody is watching and hearing what we are saying, if we cannot help our people at a time like this, I don't know what other time that we can actually do anything to them. Even the refugees in the nearing Gambela areas, they are really flooding. People from all over the places, if they are losing their cows, they're losing their goods, they are losing everything that they have. We have to help. And it is a work of the community, it's a work of our faith-based organization, it is the work of all of us together. Any organized group that are really doing anything for people here, they should respond to that. That's it. Now, when it comes to the politics and policy, writing ideas and all that, we have written a lot, man. We have written a lot in South Sudan. We wrote opinion paper, we wrote ideas paper, we wrote a lot of other stuff. There are limited. The thing is in Einstein theory of doing things over and over and expect a different result, and you have never seen the result. It's not only proof in South Sudan. It is proof all over the places, even in here in the West. You're now seeing people who are trying to figure out what to do with the former president, who have took them to direction that if it happened to be anybody like us, you and I will be 1,000 years in jail. So for him, what are we going to do? What they're going to do? They know he has committed crime, but they just don't know what would it take for America if they actually want him to not be above the law. I think what we have in South Sudan is having people who are above the life of other people, other human beings. And regardless of what you write, I don't think any opinion would make any sense at this moment. And that might be me. Because strategically, what makes sense to human being is human being life. If you deal with people who do not care about life, they don't have empathy. And when you don't have empathy, and you are transactional on health, like the authoritarian or the dictatorial, you can wipe out the whole society. And as long as you think you can still live, you will think the other people will also raise up and will be with you. They might emerge from the ground, or they might migrated from the other country and becoming you, and all they will do is just praise you. You can even look at yourself like a king, or maybe even the Messiah of that society. That, I think, is what we're seeing in most part. I don't know, I might be wrong. But that alone,
I'm not going to say you're wrong. No way, you're not wrong. But I'm going to take it in a different angle. Where does UN get money from to help the needy people?
Their money comes from two sources.
Mm-hmm.
There's a commitment from the nations that have signed up the charter. Those nations commit, and the United States take the 50% of that commitment in all 190 something nations.
And now let's focus on the United States.
And then yes, before
when
that,
United States take 50% of the entire UN, isn't that the taxpayers that Americans are taking?
Well, they have a way to encourage, because their taxpayer understood their responsibilities, and whatever they give to the government, it is up to the government to decide it to remain in power. That's why they do it. They do it. You and I are paying this. We don't know we are paying it. That's what we are paying it, and we cannot ask our government, why do you give 50% to the UN and somebody in China. Somebody in China is only giving 10%.
The reason I'm asking this question, I'm trying to connect this to our communities here in the United States, here in Canada, in Australia. If the United States would tax the 50% of the entire UN assistance to the needy countries. Let's take this minute example. We, the South Sudanese community, let's pretend that we are part of the UN. But in a sense, we're related to these people, right?
Right.
Okay. Instead of blaming the person that is not protecting them, that is not helping them, that is not cooking food for them, that's not protecting their welfare, why are we not unite here? I'm talking about here where we are. Why are we not unite here and send bags of sorghums, bags of sugar, bags of medicines to people that are not doing their job? Why are we not doing it?
No, I think we are united. That's why we're having a show. So
No, the show is not going to say nothing to.
no. I'm just joking. So the thing is, the organization that put effort together is a huge responsibility sometimes, and it does need some technical know-how and organization and technical know-how and reorganization of all the small pieces.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge we have in the West, especially for South Sudanese, not only Nuer, even Equatorian, who are more advanced, I would say, because there's a lot of education in Equatorian that we don't know, the rest of South Sudanese. There's more doctors in Equatorian than most of others region put together.
Where do you get that data from?
That's extraordinary. You can do your own research and find it out. So there's that. Even within that Equatorian, there's also still a challenge of coordinating the effort that goes out to the others. If you come to Nuer, even sectionally, we are not organized enough to do things together. And you go to Denka, it's still even Denka, even within one group. It's let's say Denka Bor, even them taking a project together is also a challenge. So the umbrella institution that can be put together to address a crisis as such is needed, but it will also take a lot of effort to see that happen.
But what prevent that unity? Let leave the Equatorians aside because they have done better than the rest. But what prevent that unity from the community you just mentioned? Does that have to do with people in South Sudan?
It has to do with the politics in South Sudan. It also had to do with crisis that we have early on too in the West. Remember, at one point, when we came, you and I were from Greater Nasser.
Equatorian had the same problem in South Sudan. In fact, they are the one that.
No, I would say I didn't give them the credit that much. I say even though they had the education, they still struggle. They still struggle to coordinate effort too, like the rest of the other groups. That's what I was saying. But Nuer, for example, even Greater Nasser, when we had the Greater Nasser, it turned out to be pieces. And even those pieces that cannot even come together to do things that make sense for this response, for each of them.
We blame on that.
Greater my would too. So, who would we blame?
Let's get back to Greater Nasser. Who do we blame that they...
No, I am not in it. I told you a long time ago, I'm not always in the business of blaming because I really don't think it solved problem. I think what solved problem is if you guys know what we have done is wrong. Because you always have to put yourself in whatever happened. If it happened good, you're part of it. You happen bad, you're part of it. You cannot get yourself out of it unless you are not trustworthy. You're not being honest. So we all are part of what happened.
We can't point finger on what we are doing here. Why do we blame people in South Sudan?
Because, well, there's a difference here. When you're talking about a local organization, a civic, small group organization, they don't have the extraordinary mandate that the president of the nation has. The president of the nation is not a god, but he has the power of making things happen right for people. So the community at the lower level can learn. It's just like a child. Child learn from the parent. Okay? If the parent tells the child what to do, then the child would have no option. The child had to follow and model from them. So we can't take away the fact that the disorganization, the disunity, the tribalism, all the other negative aspect that we've seen from the higher level of the society is exactly what is trickling down to the smaller group. Because even if the smaller group organize themselves, how they communicate? Anyone want to get there alone because there's a system that want you not to be organized, that want you not to be together, for you to be fed differently, for you to be survived as such. That what makes them managing you, because they're managing you in a crisis. It's just like did I tell you last time that we have a crisis leadership? That's exactly what it is. So you don't this group here at the bottom. Where are they learning? What is it that they can actually do? If you're talking about the development, for example, in the early 2000, a lot of groups came together with organizing their communities so that they can do development back home, education development, health development, and et cetera, et cetera. What happened? When crisis happened and they don't see the way out, where would the money end up? They end up being taken by few people. And now why do that happen? It's because of what they have done in South Sudan, that there are few people that can actually take the whole nation money and do their own thing with it. They don't even develop South Sudan for the poor to work for them. They're developing other nations. They're developing other countries. I was watching the news earlier, and reading the article earlier. There was an article of a South Sudanese man or a woman, I don't know, but a South Sudanese person lost
In
400,000.
Uganda. That's the news in Uganda.
Yeah, lost $400,000 to the SIP in Uganda. 400,000 US dollars in Uganda. What are this money doing in Uganda? Why not develop South Sudan with this money and create things that poor people can work for you? If you are able to get your hand into those kind of money, man, these are the crises that we have.
That is a discussion on itself. That's a hot topic you brought up. But here is Dr. Thatch, we're coming to an end now because I committed to 1 hour now. And I hope that I can keep doing that so that we get. These have been very, very important discussions, actually. But let's finish these last 7 minutes with a solution. And let me read you this. The term community has undergone a significant transition in recent years. Historically, it was defined at least in part by location. Our neighborhood, cities, and other local boundaries determines where we meet other community members and social lives. Perhaps village in Africa is a prime example. But in this 21st century, now communities become more and more united, especially with the online community that has come together. We in America here, we are doing one thing that we never stop doing. And that is this huge remittance we send back home without responsibility of organizing it. We send money to our families because they are in need. We know that. And for whoever might be watching me, don't take me wrong. I want Dr. Taj also to comment on this the last part. We send so much money to South Sudan. Isn't that a time we organize and things on how if we should help these people and what way? We have so many young people, Dr. Taj, that we should send to school because in less than 15 years, they will turn around to change that community. But yet, we are sending money blindly, thinking that we are helping our families, but they will end up in the hands of a man like you and I going to marry a third wife. Is that fair? Is that something we call ourselves intellectual? Is that what we should be doing?
If this is the closing,
Yes.
I would say thank you for the show. I also wanted to thank the audience for tuning in to this show. I really urge the people who are listening to respond to the crisis in our community now, the water crisis, the flood crisis, especially if you are if you are in the corridor of Gambela region, all the way to the other part of the South Sudan, and if you have a mean, our areas is the lower land areas, so there's nowhere people can run to, but we have to figure out a way to help them. Maybe providing them with at this moment, providing them with tents, tents, also mosquito net, disease medicines for both human and animal. Provide them with the drink water, because now people will end up drinking wrong water that are actually going to cause more diseases. And then also now with people being in the land, it will be the land that will be shared with a lot of unhealthy animals, including the snakes. The snake will be there, and other animals will also try to be there because everyone wanted to survive. So we have to get the animal protecting this medicine so that they can help people, even if you are bited by snakes, so you can survive. Let us respond to the need our people have. And I'm glad we have this forum tonight to call this message. I also heard the local community organization to please do not sit idly, do not sit silent. As your community, let all put our hand together. Even if we're doing the way we are doing things now, it's okay. Let's just go ahead and do the emergency aspect first. The urgent thing now. The urgent thing is let's serve life. We can serve some life, but there's going to be a lot of people dying. Especially this, we are still in September, and this is the water will not go down, and probably this water, they probably stay there until the other water come in. We got to be also thinking of a long term. What is long term going to be for the lower land areas in South Sudan or in Ethiopia? Maybe people have to find the higher lands, and maybe people will no longer scatter like this. We'll find to live in a communal areas where we could be able to surround, to fend ourselves with dirt, so that mana take kick the corner like chalke, mana run kick like, so we'll be able to survive. I think this is my appeal to our community. Let help the community. This is the time for it. Now, I did not disagree with you so much in terms of helping the community, helping the youth for the new future, because our future is relies on the young people, and also hope will be that those young people can do things differently than we are, and it's a great thing. But I also think assisting our people at a moment like this, helping them right now, I don't think is the wrong thing. Some family cannot survive if they're not getting mean financially. There are people who can survive, but there are a number of people who cannot survive. I would not encourage people to think of their family if they are giving them anything they have now, that they are putting it to waste. I'm not talking a lot about the polygamy thing, marriage, number of wife thing, I'm not advocate or for or against it, because traditionally it is what our people think. It helps address the needs of people. But as we speak, this movement, having a one wife and one husband, it's the only stability life that you have as a family. It would not only just uh, unless you have people that listen to themselves, it is hard to have an effort that will bring you guys to the new future and have a productive future if you are not able to control your message at home. It's because things have changed. We are now living in a urban life. We are living in a city. We're not living in a village when you can give that family their own hut out there and their own tukul there and the other one there, and then you can walk in between. But now we are all living in the same apartment, and it's hard to make things like this happen. So it's time to think strategically. It's time to think like we are to the new era. We are no longer going backward. We are going forward, and if we are behind, we will just be behind. The change is coming regardless. So So even marriage that costs so much in the next few years, you probably will agree to give your wife, to your daughter, to somebody with no single cow. Otherwise, she will not be married until 40, and then it'll be too late. So if you'll be waiting for more cows to come to you, because that thing will change. Let accept the change, even though it's hot. Let's take it where it is. Let also make sure that when we change, we also have to be patient, because it does take patience too, because people don't change at the same time. And that's why you cannot oppose yourself that I'm this and I can do this. We're intellectual, but we can't tell people you can do this because this is what I am. You can only share with them what you think, and it's up to them to take it or not to take it. With that, I wanted to thank you, Ambassador Miyong, and thank the audience again. And nice to talk to you. Hopefully, we'll come back next time. But I'm very, very overwhelmed with so many things that I have now, and that's why sometimes I miss the time, miss the comment.
Well, thank you so very much. These were very productive. We have a number of viewers that have contributed, but now I'll let you go, and I will close that in the next 2 minutes. Thank you so much for coming, Dr. Thatch, like always. See you next Wednesday. Bye-bye. Well, thank you very much. I want to appreciate you for the time you spent. I want to recognize a number of our viewers. Number one, of course, is our super fan, Sarah Dole, and Monica Jack say good evening. Joel Mashar. No soldier ever graduated from training with gun. Yeah, that is true. I agree with you. Nijang Diang Koda, Malo Miyong Kuon. Yes, Malo Muga. How are you doing? Gadwich Guy Toad. Good morning to you, sir. I perhaps things you might be in the African continent or somewhere very far from where I am, because it's definitely evening here. Sarah John, I like the way that you organize your shows, Miyong Kwan. Thank you very much for that. And let me know how I can make it even better with your contributions. You can send a text, you can email me, all that you can. I will be able to get that. Tarak, quote your evening South Sudan today. Yes, good evening to you. Sher Blang Nyakim, watching from Nairobi, Kenya, Westland. Bariyako in Nairobi. Shual Machar, Guy Dang, most of our intellectuals are selfish and only concerned about their own personal interest. They are not where to be found their own community affairs, because they are not where to be found in their own community affairs because they think that they are better, but they are not. Yes, that is a jab. Yes, Michael Garchuk, the president of Nuer community in the United States, said grown man or grown woman. We were talking about earlier about people acting like grown men acting like children's. Gadwait Guy told again, the time is running without doing anything for the coming generation. Excuse me. The policies like playing a ball. First, we are looking for security in all areas in South Sudan. Simon Gadwich Kuon, security situation would be one of the top issues which prevented African diasporans to go back home to invest. That's a point. Bolrik, how the communities can come together when they already disintegrated after the 2013 massacre of Nuer ethnic group in South Sudan. This is the state of conundrum where each ethnic defends themselves from external aggressions. Our ethnic cohesion is deteriorating, period. That's what he said. Niall Lual also said, Niall is watching the show. I don't know where you're watching from. Which guy to it again? When there is security in the country, the people will do what we want them to do. Security is nothing. We cannot do anything with security without the security. Sorry. Bol Nyang is watching from Australia again. Sharib Sharif Balangyakim, Dr. Galwak, are you grading yourself as South Sudanese American or Ethiopian American or just Woodnuara? I don't know what you mean by that, but could easily be both because he has a family in Ethiopia and he's from South Sudan and he lives in the United States. So he's definitely on all three you have mentioned. Shual Mashar, Guide Dam. Those are taking South Sudan backward is because the intellectuals in Western countries are quiet or against those who gone back home because of their own personal ego and attack those who are trying their best to bring peace back home. You have a point. That's right. Brother Ruben said, wait, can't get it right. Brother Ruben, non-profit organizations also benefit when the whole system, the government, is functional. That is true. Nia Lual, I agree with you for asking that question direct to our intellectuals. The problem is our intellectuals are not transformational leadership to define as a leadership approach that causes change in individuals and social system and create a valuable and also in followers with the end of goal developing. Can't even see the rest, brother. But anyway, Joseph Mott is watching. I don't know where you're watching from. Nia is watching from Australia. But again, I want to say thanks for watching. This has been a great time with you. It's time now that we come to the end of our show. But I have one point to let our viewer know. If you live in Australia, Canada, Australia, or United States, or even Europe, I give you a challenge. Our communities here, doesn't matter where you come from in South Sudan, if we don't unite ourselves here where you are as diasporas, as people who live with the rest of the community that are doing functional things, then we cannot blame other people that are not doing well because we ourselves are not taking the lead. I take an example here in the United States. The Nuer community need to come together. You need to look after your own community and make it look much better. If we dwell on these tiny, minute problems that we have, that Mr. X and Sister X has not done that and not done this, time will not wait for us. You need to come together. You need to unite and then change your own community. People will, especially government, work with you. Same thing to Denga community. Same thing to Equatorian community. To all of you South Sudanese, enough with fighting that will never, never, never end. What's happening in our country today is something that needs all of us. We tend to waste our time with things that will not even help you, the person that is taking time to listen. Let's spend time with things that will help us. In this country, if we do better for ourselves, we will easily help the rest that are not doing well somewhere else, especially our kings. So my point here is, let's focus on changing our lives ourselves. Let's have goals. If you want to have a house of your own 5 years from now in this country, you must plan it now. You must know exactly what it is, what it takes for you to have or to be able to buy a house. If you want your child to go to one of the best schools in this country, you must plan it now. And for you to plan that, there are some things that you must give up. It will change your lifestyle for that immense moment because you have a plan. And it is this plan that will change everything you do every day. You have a new child in the family, it will change the way you live your life with your family. Why? Because this younger one that have just joined the family has different things, has need, has way, has name it, it's there. So if we want to change our community, a happy family means happy community. But if we think that we have a single mother who cannot take care of their children, and you think that you are not part of that problem, you are wrong. Because this single mother who need help from you is part of our community. If one of your fingers is hurting, the rest of your body will not feel well. So within our community, for those who need help more than others, and instead of looking them down, and instead of avoiding them, please take time to help. Because tomorrow, that child that being taken care of by that single mother or single father, or even a families of two that don't even speak English or whatever the language of that place is, help them. Because that's how our community will excel. With that, I want to say thank you so much for watching South Sudan Today. We will see you next Saturday, same place, same time. Thank you very much.
Young boy, Lord Mugwa and Shannon, Jacka Kawarnya, don't make a more day come near by your bill. Will I do Badundan Kell?
What am I? You like the jam, like the kind of make come round, Japan, lady, I'll go and I'm Gange. Welcome, you go be you won't like you.
Yalching Kurachugainan, did Kudial Chica Choida, Kayan and welcome, Chicken Yalijin Karadu, Jin Karadu, Yalijin Kara. Hey, Bangalore, King Major Kana Queen, Baratul Kadwini Dinka yet can look by the Kajiba and Kajika Chokan. Urangasa. When you go, if to go, young to go, like you and by your tea, Yal by your tea, baby. Like you go and Shannon, Jack, Kawarina, don't make a more day, come here by your tea. Will I do Badundan Kell?
What am I? You like the jam, like the kind of make come round, Japan, lady, I'll go and I'm Gange. Welcome, you go be you won't like you. Namnia, con young again. Why not to go to Ladity? Galoid, if you to quite quiet. Yakan Yaga long yo, you quinn, can you make Namnia, con young again. You want me by what do Paraguay do? Navana, you may look in I would tell you and tell me. But like Shamingo, like the go pay Jagasha, Lapalwa.
Loin Mugwa and Shannon, Jacka Kawarnya, don't make a more day, come near by your bill. Will I do Badundan Kell?
What am I? You like the jam, like the kind of make come round, Japan, lady, I'll go and I'm Gange. Welcome, you go be you won't like you.
She not Guadajuk,
She no Guadajuk,
Mangoraman, she comes a love one Jalkel Yuda, Chakwasi in the Dunga, Shangan con be like Shara, Yalga be like Tiamo, or your ma, she like the jam, make a G.
I never believed in love, baby, until the moment when I met you, girl. She looked determined until she genuinely yet kiddo. She genuinely let katel. Kajo do me show me Lord. She mando shabal. She la ja shadi kan yegan kir. She told me she loved me. I was like, oh I me. She was mad there. Banta kel na don't baby. Shaboom ni retanika. Killer her ni money. Banchon killer bunny. That's why she got me singing like, ooh, she's a South Sudan diva. And she just came from nowhere. Now she's taking me somewhere. And I wish I can make her mine. She's a South Sudan diva. And she just came from nowhere. Now she's taking me somewhere. And I wish I could make her mine. Come dance with me. Sasamuwa. Got doing it. Better doing me than come dance with me. Sasamuwa. Got doing it. Better doing me than and when I dream the only one I see is you. And my heart is true, ganyan, she the mature. Touch me, baby, don't shy away. I always thank God you came my way. She know me at a like ganyan, me kind of chat. She hear me can knock money, me she like the shy. Habana haba ujaza kibaba. I love the way you are so amazing. Turn on my girl, you know I'm your romantic. You are my strength when I fly in the air. To believe when I say that. I only live when I'm next to you. Turn on my girl, you know I'm your romantic. You are my strength when I fly in the air. To believe when I say that. I only live when I'm next to you. Come dance with me. Sasamuwa. Got doing it. Better doing me than come dance with me. Sasamuwa. To believe when I say that. I only live when the next day. Turn up my girl, you know I'm your romantic. You are my strength when I fly in the air. To believe when I say that. I only live when I'm next to you. Lord Simon for the mic, representing SPU Dynasty. Yeah. And she got me singing like, ooh, she's a South Sudan diva. And she just came from nowhere. Now she's taking me somewhere. And I wish I can make her mine. She's a South Sudan diva. And she just came from nowhere. Now she's taking me somewhere. And I wish I could make her mine. I do it for this. Yeah.
should have been driving the car. Yeah, but you have the phone. You tell me that your brother called and I can't go. Yeah, where are you? Huh? Okay. Send it again. Give me the program form. Check the address. Yeah. You just send it out. Send it again. Yeah, you didn't get it. Why didn't you call now?